Well, keep in mind, the average Tesla owner is not a Latino working class blue collar guy that wants chrome.
Great point.
It's college educated white people.
It's Democrats.
Yes. I mean, it's the worst business decision of all time, right? Donald Trump, by the way, this whole spectacle that they did with selling cars out front of the White House is designed to change voting or purchasing behavior. He's trying to get Trumpers to start buying electric vehicles, ironically enough. But remember, it is precisely the demographic that is the most Democratic supporting person that hates Elon Musk and buys Teslas. Without them, the company collapses. So they've got to either get Latinos to somehow make Teslas part of lowrider culture. Let me say that again. Get Latinos to be shaking his head, Chuck shaking his head.
Oh, hell no.
Would you buy a Tesla if they wrapped it with a chrome bumper and some chrome rims?
No.
Come on, lower it a little bit, trick it out.
Let me tell you about these Cybertrucks. I've looked at these Cybertrucks not to buy, but to make fun of them because I don't know which end of them to get into to even drive it. Is they're not hauling much hay in the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Latino Vote Podcast, coming to you live by myself from Washington, D.C. We're just down the road at the White House. You can get zero financing, zero down, and zero due at purchase by purchasing a Tesla down at the new Tesla dealership at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with one Donald Trump and Elon Musk. If you saw him yesterday, he had his cheat notes out, and he was telling everybody about why they should be buying one of these Tesla's cars because he said, this is a patriotic American company. Welcome in, Mike Madrid.
Chuck, great to see you. You should be a used car salesman. I think it's kind of perfect for you.
You're not the first one to tell me this.
You're dead on. I think you ought to go down and audition. I think old Trump and Elon would love to have you there on the lot. It's a great lot. It's right there on the South Lawn.
These cars are flying off the lot. Get down here and get them while they're hot. They're flying off the lot. Get down here before they're all gone.
Little nugget for you that you're going to appreciate on this as it gets to cars. According to Kelley Blue Book, 40% of Latina women feel they know more about the car buying process than their significant other. And I kind of love that. Yeah. This is Kelley Blue Book data. Yeah, isn't that great? We'll post that research. It's from Kelley Blue Book. It's a little dated. It's 2016, but my strong sense is with all the demographic changes that we talk about with Latinos going to college and graduating faster than our men are, I think a lot of these women are saying, you know what? I think I'm a better decider on what kind of a car we ought to have. And my guess is it's probably not going to be a Tesla sold on the South Lawn of the White House.
No. And for all of you listening to the Latino Vote Podcast, welcome in, because we love talking about our gente here. Car culture is such a big part of our community, whether you're talking about the old cars in Cuba. Oh, my God, the lowriders in California, right, Mike?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a huge thing. It's actually become you started to see lowriders protesting environmental regulations in California for two reasons, by the way.
Tell me.
Because, well, they try to ban chrome bumpers and hexavalent chromium is what makes chrome shine. And it's, apparently toxic or something like that.
Just toxic.
Gustavo wrote a great article on this where he was like, nah, ends up there's really not much more hexavalent chromium here than anywhere else. But Enviro is doing what Enviros want to do, want to shut everything down. And so a lot of lowriders were like, no, you're not. Would you take chrome off of a car and put plastic on it like it's a Hyundai? It kind of loses its lowrider edge, right? So that's one of it. And the other is these are gas-powered cars, which in California is really frowned on, right? We're trying to get rid of gas-powered cars. So lowrider culture is becoming more defined in California. And I think I love it. I love that part of the culture. I love that story of who we are. It's so working class, but so working class in a Latino way. And it's a big deal in California, and it's a big problem for a lot of legislators in California.
To me, nothing says cars like chrome. I have been a chrome dude since day one. I remember the first truck I ever owned. It was a 1968 Chevrolet step-side pickup truck. It had a straight six in it, 292, 3 in the tree. Like I took auto mechanics in high school. When I could afford to buy my first chrome rims, I remember this is before the internet, you kids.
You are so Republican. This is ridiculous.
And I would get these magazines that have these monster truck tires and chrome wheels that you could order and figure out which chrome you wanted, right? And so, my God, I can take you and show you the exact chrome wheels. Till today, 40 years later, I still obsess over my wheels and my chrome. There's a running joke in my household because back in the day when I started going to fishing tournaments, and in these fishing tournaments, this guy had this booth set up selling these wood carved hook necklaces, and I had to have one. I was in my first fishing tournament. I had to have one of these fishing hook necklaces, and all these hooks were there. Then all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something shining, and it was one of these hook necklaces, but it was chrome. And I said, that's my necklace. I am Mexican. I love the chrome. I want a chrome hook necklace.
Twisted steel and sex appeal.
Holy shit. I said, I get this. I wore that steel necklace, that chrome necklace, before the end of this podcast. For all of you YouTube listeners, I think it's hanging in the other room.
Of course,
and I'm going to go see if it's in there when I'm done. But I love the chrome. If you're going to be anti-chrome, you're anti-Latino, and don't ever step to me again.
I can't believe that they allow you into Democratic events. Like you're so working class. It's like how do they not bring you on to help at least guide some messaging? If you're not from the Latino community, if you're not from this culture, you can't conceive of this. You just can't. You don't know how to talk to these voters, because you don't know they exist, by the way. So, I love that story. I hope you have that. I hope you have that close. Yeah, cultural competence. I want to see that necklace before the end.
I'm going to find it. I think it's hanging on my mirror in there because I never wanted to lose it.
Also, on this mirror. Yeah,
it's on my mirror in my bedroom.
Nothing of course, like your wife must love that. Go, no, my man.
Also this weekend, shout out to Albert Morales. We're going to have Albert on. Albert works at TargetSmart. Oh, you remember Albert? Albert is my egg dealer.
Oh, egg dealer. That's right. He has a ranch up in Maryland, outside of the city, where he's dealing eggs.
I ran out of eggs this weekend, so me and Ebony went up to his ranch this weekend to get 3 dozen. And when I got up there, Albert put me to work. I moved about 50 bales of hay from the top of the loft down to the bottom where the horses are because it's still cold out there.
That's real work. 50 bales of hay is a lot of work.
It is. And I want you to know, I saw Albert grab a bale in each hand. I was like, fuck, I haven't done that since I was 30, but here I go. I went and got each one. He went down to the bottom and started stacking. We moved stuff around like we were old Mexicans back in the day. Yeah. But I say that Albert's a regular listener. Oh, Albert is regular. His daughter, Martha, who is amazing, rides these horses and she jumps the things in the corrals. Yeah. But he's traveling a lot with her and he listens to the Latino Vote podcast. He had me out this weekend, but he wanted to make sure, Mike, that I told you and Andreas hi. And maybe later on in the spring, when he gets more numbers back from the data file from TargetSmart, we'll have my egg dealer on to the podcast, maybe.
Yeah, well, I'm more of a gentleman farmer nowadays. You're not going to catch me baling hay. A little known fact, though, about 15 years ago when I was raising my kids on a couple of acres outside of Sacramento, I had a herd of goats. So I raised goats. I swear to God, had a herd of 40 goats. I got as big as 40, but I would try to keep it down around 14, 15. But so when you're talking about, baling hay, and you're talking about delivering goats at 2 a.m. in rainy February, which is when they kid, or you're talking about castrating. I've done it all, brother. I mean, I have done it all. I've been out there, and I love that phase of my life, but I will never do it again. So, Al, I'm looking forward to the eggs. I'm going to take them on credit because there ain't no way you're going to get me out there baling hay again. Too old.
I'll do some work for you. I'll go out there and get them. Albert Morales. We're going to have Albert on. Shout out to TargetSmart, a group out there led by Tom Barnier, who's also a good friend of the podcast. So now
brilliant guy, by the way, Tom.
Oh, that's right. You know Tom from the internets.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, his analysis and what he's doing with voter data, we need to have Tom on too. We should have them both on. Because what TargetSmart is doing is really insightful, and I'm a big fan of Tom Barnier.
And as I kicked off the show, getting back into our regular programming, sometimes we get sidetracked on chrome and eggs, but I digress. Elon Musk had a big week this week, and Donald Trump bought him a Tesla. And what he was really doing, for all of you who don't follow the news habitually, another big word for me, is that these dealerships are under attack by folks who are venting their frustrations for Elon Musk. And it seems, Mike probably know more about this than me, this morning I think I heard on one of my podcasts that the stock where most of Elon's wealth is has down like 50%. Is that right, Mike?
Well, keep in mind, the average Tesla owner is not a Latino working class blue collar guy that wants chrome.
Great point.
It's college educated white people.
It's Democrats.
Yes. I mean, it's the worst business decision of all time, right? So yeah, he's killing his own market. And again, he'll say he's doing it because he's a patriot. We all know that that's a bunch of, nonsense. But yeah, I mean, it's just a really terrible, bad, horrible decision, and good for them. Good for people pushing back. It's people that buy Teslas that are going to say no. Donald Trump, by the way, this whole spectacle that they did with selling cars out front of the White House is designed to change voting or purchasing behavior. He's trying to get Trumpers to start buying electric vehicles. Ironically enough, I mean maybe these guys are smarter than everybody takes them for. Maybe this is what the real objective is. But if anybody can change the consumer behavior of his base, it's Donald Trump. But remember, that's why they're doing it. Is they're trying to save his company. It's offensive. It's borderline corrupt, or maybe over borderline corrupt, using the White House as a backdrop for your Cal Worthington, car dealership to sell these cars. But remember, it is precisely the demographic that is the most Democratic supporting person that hates Elon Musk and buys Teslas. Without them, the company collapses. So they've got to either get Latinos to somehow make Teslas part of lowrider culture. Let me say that again. Get Latinos to be shaking his head, Chuck shaking his head.
Oh, hell no.
Would you buy a Tesla if they wrapped it with a chrome bumper and some chrome rims?
No.
Come on, lower it a little bit, trick it out.
Let me tell you about these Cybertrucks. I've looked at these Cybertrucks not to buy, but to make fun of them, because I don't know which end of them to get into to even drive it. Is they're not hauling much hay in the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Albert Morales, let's go back to Albert. Albert just bought another 3/4 ton pickup truck. Is another reason I went out there to see. He got rid of his dually, and he got a 3/4 ton because he's hauling a horse trailer, and he got this ranch model. It's beautiful with leather seats, and he can haul hay, he can haul his cows, and he can haul his ass. You can't do none of that in the damn Cybertruck.
So this is what I want everybody to take a good listen to this here. What Elon Musk and Donald Trump are trying to do is get Chuck Rocha's demographic to buy Teslas. That's what they're going to try to do. We're going to see if it's successful. But I love this conversation because Chuck is of this culture, clearly, right? Like he's of it. This is how he was raised. This is how we grew up. This is how it's a little foreign to me, but I'm laughing because I get it. I knew guys like that growing up.
And it's authentic. I don't make none of this shit up.
No, you can't make all that language you just man. Somebody talking about turned in his dually for a 3/4. I mean, what are you talking about? Like that's not
it's a different size of pickup truck. That's how much tonnage they can pull. I'm sorry.
I do, but I'm Republican. You got to remember that. I know what that is.
Oh, that's right.
Not a whole lot of your friends at Yale that are, at the, latte parties at the DNC convention.
I have no fucking idea
what the hell that is, right? And so my point is that's who they're trying to get to change their minds about buying these cars and these trucks. And if not, the company's probably in deep, deep trouble because Democrats have had it. That demographic that was going to, had the luxury and the convenience and the money to buy these cars are no longer, for political reasons, invested in that. Think about that for a moment. Rather than saving the planet, they'd rather screw Elon Musk's company. That's how pissed off they've got these guys.
Well, let's talk about something else about this because you'll know more about this than me. Yep. Is that the other part of this is that Elon Musk sells these cars all over the world. Guess where else these cars aren't selling? In France, in Germany, other places. This went through the toilet and all those places because guess what? He's cut off all the USAID money. He's cut off all the good globe. He's anti the Ukrainians. I said that wrong. What's they called over there?
Ukrainians.
Yeah, the Ukrainians. I knew you should talk about this topic and not me.
Well, not only that, but X is a bigger problem there too. They've got much more privacy filters there, and they limit free speech much more than they do here. So yeah, Elon Musk has become more as much as he. And by the way, Elon Musk's approval ratings are sitting down in the 30s, right? This is not a popular guy. People don't like this guy. Trump's numbers are like 15, 20 points higher. People don't like Elon Musk. They don't trust Elon Musk, especially who's out there with a chainsaw, gas powered, I'm sure. Talking about cutting the government, cutting back the federal government. In Europe, he's been unpopular for a very long time. because he is using these social media platforms and attacking the government and trying to scrape data. In in America, we're much more open about giving these tech companies all of our data freely and not worrying about it. The Europeans understand the stakes. This is dangerous stuff. So yeah, he's unpopular. And now it's become a political statement to not buy Elon Musk products. And the people that had the money to buy his products are precisely the demographic he's pissed off. It's a great story, lovely story. Not going to be lowrider culture, although I would love to see Elon Musk come out to Southern California, lower a Tesla, trick it out with some chrome, get it bumping a little bit, maybe
with some
fuzzy dashboard, maybe a purple
just stop
on the
it's going
sides.
Downhill so fast.
Okay, a little like an Impala, like a '64 Impala style Tesla. You don't think that works?
No. Mm-mm. He is poo-pooing in his own trade. Anyway, I want to go on to the next topic that I want to talk about here in Washington, D.C., which is the continuing resolution. This is, again, y'all, we're recording this on Wednesday. A lot will have changed, hopefully by Friday. But last night in the U.S. House, the government decided to continue the same level. And then, Mike, when you get this, clean it up for me. But it's to continue the funding that we're currently at. It don't increase any funding, which we really need, but it keeps it at the same level for a few more months. I think this is for maybe a year.
Right.
And it allows the government to do the work at the same level. And it passed the House, which is really historic if you think about it. They talked about it this morning on Puck News, not Puck, but Punch Bowl, one of them podcasts I listened to, and said it was the first time with such a small majority that Republicans only had ever passed a CR, continuing resolution, because there's so many fiscal hawks on the Republican Party that would always vote against any kind of a increase in budget because they want to do away with the deficit, blah, 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 all these folks. But Donald Trump got them all in line, but one person, which is that crazy guy from Kentucky. So he was the only Republican to vote against the CR. The Democrats all stayed together, except for one, Jared Golden, in northern Maine. We talk about him all the time. It's a Trump district. Also, rumors out there this morning that Jared Golden may be wanting to run for governor of Maine. So that tells you some things. So you had one Democrat and one Republican, but then other than those two, everybody fell in line. And so what happens next, and I'll kick it to Mike, is it should have went to the Senate by today if you're listening to this on Friday. If you're listening to this podcast on Saturday or Sunday, hopefully our government hasn't shut down and that they come to some resolution. So who is this on? To give you just a little bit of context before I throw it to Mike, is that to pass this through the Senate, two things have to happen. They have to have 60 votes. Currently, the Republicans have 53. So they'd have to have 8 Democrats come over to get 51. 8 Democrats. If they don't come over, the government shuts down at midnight on Friday. Now, the House has went home. They adjourned and everybody went back to their districts. Why did they do that? One of the things that is being talked about is that the Senate has to pass the same exact bill that the House did. But the Senate would like more funding. Like for the military is one example, for the Pentagon. In the House bill, there's $100 billion more money, and the senators would like $150 billion more in their bill. But they have to pass the same bill, or the Republicans have to return before Friday night to vote on this. So there's a lot of pressure on the Senate to just pass what they passed, or the government shuts down. Mike, give me your 2 cents.
I think you obviously explained that perfectly. A continuing resolution just allows the government to kind of stay open, keep cash flow moving, to keep paying bills. It puts the Democrats in a little bit of a conundrum here. And the conundrum is, even though they don't want to support anything that the Republicans are doing, there is a very legitimate, credible political argument that if they do not go forward with this, then they are shutting down the government. And it's a very tough political message to say you've got to keep funding USAID. You can't be cutting the Department of Education. You can't be cutting Social Security and Medicare and all of these programs, and at the same time not voting to keep the government going. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And it's also, look, I will also make the argument this is just responsible governance. You can't be it's extremely expensive to shut down the government. It's damaging. to shut down the government. It also undermines the credibility of the government. We've got enough of that coming out of the White House right now with, are we tariffing this? Are we tariffing that? Tariff here, tariff there, tariff everywhere. And then, 25 minutes later, based on somebody's tweet in Canada or Mexico, we'll get to Scheinbaum, I think, in a little bit. He changes his mind, changes his position. This is no way to run a government. And so the Democrats, as the responsible party, they've got this really undue burden to be the responsible party in an unresponsible era, in an irresponsible moment. And the Republicans just throw tantrums, right? They're going to deliver for Donald Trump. They're going to do whatever Donald Trump said. Even these very far right-wing Freedom Caucus, fiscal hawks that are going to say cut, shrink the size of government, drown it in a bathtub. When it comes down to getting a phone call from Donald Trump, they're going to do whatever the man says. And so when they do, they flip that football over to the other side, into the Senate side. The Senate is kind of, debating between $50 billion on the size of the spend of the military, I think, is probably where the holdup is. But the bottom line is the Democrats are kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. So you're going to have Schumer counting to just probably the bare minimum votes that he's going to have to deliver the continuing resolution, but they're not doing it with glee. They're not doing it with happiness. They're doing it because they're so politically pigeonholed. They don't have a choice to make in the matter. I'm sure a lot of people on the left would be like, shut the government down, let it go, do what the Republicans want to do. And I don't agree with that. I mean, I want to hear your opinion on it. Love to hear people's opinion on this in the comment section. But if you allow the first of all, there's logistical reasons why this is really bad. It's extremely expensive to shut down the government and start it back up. It costs a factor of a multitude of probably 20 times to get things started again, to bring people back. But the second is it sends such a wrong message to the world and to financial markets about the competency of our politicians to run the government. But third is politically, and this is the one that I think is probably the most damaging and long term. You can't, in good conscience and good faith, oppose all the cuts to government that the Republicans are doing right now and allow the government to shut down. You can't. That gives you your opposition, it gives the Republicans an attack point, and they will use it, and they're waiting for it, and they're leveraging the Democrats, and that's kind of the way I see it. Chuck, I don't know if you've got a different opinion.
No, I think you're basically right. I think that another point that was made this morning on the news early. Everybody knows I get up with the chickens. Anyway, I get up early in the morning, and what they were saying is that the Senate has not had a break in like 6, 7, 8 weeks. Like they stay here and work when the House goes home because they've been they got to pass all these folks in the cabinet, like vote on all these cabinet people. So they've had to be here, not in and out, right? And this is just so y'all know, things in D.C. work efficiently well on deadlines. And this Friday is the Senate's last day of work, and then they're going to get a week off or a couple of weeks off or something, right? And they should get their time off, obviously. But that also puts pressure on them. So does the Senate come back? Does the House come back to vote on something? I think it passes. I think there's enough Democrats who will fall in line. I think there's a lot of Democrats that are up in 26 who don't want to, like you said, for this vote. And the biggest point you made, I think, is your last, which is if we're going to rake them over the coals about what Doge is doing, what kind of credibility do we have if we have had a hand in helping shut down the government? Which leads me to a point before you get to the tariffs and the Mexican president. Is yesterday, for those of you who follow the news, you should know that at 6 p.m. yesterday when I was on the news, notices went out to the Department of Education where they were laying off 2,000 people. That is half of 50%. The staff.
Yeah.
And then the WWE woman, McMahon, was on Fox News and said she's doing that on purpose. She's following the mandate of the president, and they want to eliminate the Department of Education. Folks were told to kind of clean out their offices over there. There was a debate. I was having a debate last night on TV about, like, will this hurt politically? Will it not? I'll be interested to know Mike Madrid's opinion. I have fought Republicans my whole life on education. Hell, we have fights within the Democratic Party about education, private schools, unions, policy. Like those debates are as old as Methuselah. I like it again. Here we go. Methuselah, old as time. 10 as old as time. Anyway, we've had these fights with education. So, I dug into the education piece because, as you can tell by the way I talk, I don't know much about education. But what I found is that most of the funding for the Department of Education is around a couple things. One is like inclusion, not just diversity, but like making sure that special ed funding flows, like a lot of that money for special ed teachers and special ed students go through there. And then also grants for underprivileged kids go through there. And it was one other thing I can't think about, but Mike, what are the politics on this Department of Education thing?
It's a great question. And I'm probably going to say something unpopular with the audience, as I often do. I'm still not convinced we need a Department of Education. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, the Department of Education was established in 1979. It hasn't been around that long, and it was created essentially for political purposes. There's very little that the Department of Education does that can't be done under other departments. And I get the politics of Jimmy Carter saying, you know what, we need to raise the level of educational importance, and he needed to signal to the American people that it was so important that he wanted a cabinet level position. But there's essentially like three things that the department does: the delivery and awarding of grants, the processing of student loans, and the enforcement of civil rights and protection of minority students, which is obviously an extremely worthy goal. That's the one that gives me pause. But the almost a half or more than I think staff time is on processing student loans. I don't think you need an entire department. I don't think you need a cabinet level position to do that. You just don't. And why can't you do the civil rights protection stuff under the DOJ? You can. So there is some research work that is done too. I don't want to take that away. I just don't. It's really hard for me to believe that all of this should be at the same cabinet level position as something, for example, like the Department of Defense, where you're talking about, $800 gazillion in terms of military aid that saves the free world. That doesn't mean I'm not pro-education, by the way, which is the easy, lazy argument against people who want to get rid of the Department of Education.
I don't know why you hate teachers and kids so much.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like you can't. And that's how government grows like this and becomes inefficient and hurts people. Exactly. No, Chuck, I mean, that's legitimate. I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, that becomes the argument is you hate teachers, you hate kids, you want people to, be like Freddie Flintstone in their caves.
Nobody knows Freddie Flintstone. Pug, C-Pug, Ron, shut up. And I disagree with you. I think that there's a lot of this that the local government can do, right? But here's what's going to happen, girls and boys, is they're going to fire a bunch of these special ed folks and money going to special ed students. It can be moved to local government, and that's what Republicans will see. But Democratic consultants like me will take that special ed teacher with their special ed students and put them in a TV commercial and say, Donald Trump just eliminated this woman who is helping change the lives of kids who need a little extra help. Which I don't know, and I don't know if Donald Trump or Republicans are saying we should eliminate that, they're probably saying we should move that to local control and all the things that they're saying, which would make sense. But the political consultant, I'm going to take that shit all day and ram it right up their ass and make sure that all of that's done because it gives me red meat. And that's probably what's wrong with politics. I get that too. And I own that piece of it because I don't know enough other than when mamas and daddies out there who ain't on Fox News every day or have a picture of Donald Trump in their living room hear that elimination of the Department of Education seems like something we should need.
Right.
And they don't know the nuances of the issue.
That's why it's existed for so long. And and I think Chuck's exactly right. That's exactly the way this will play out. I'm asking the question, does that matter? Like, are people buying it anymore? Like the Democrats rushing to defend USAID. I'm sure most of the listeners here are like, how this is the worst thing in the world. This is the end of the republic and all that stuff. I'm a supporter of USAID, by the way. I think soft power in diplomacy is I went to the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown. This is what I learned to do for a living. Like I believe in this, but it's bad politics. It's really bad politics.
Side of that, you got regular folks like me who ain't the elite like Mike Madrid, who until we started cutting USAID, I didn't know we had a USAID.
Didn't know what the hell it is. And that's my point. So yes, there are going to be those good anecdotes that a good political consultant like Chuck is going to go out there and cut an ad and say, this is the old woman getting pushed over the cliff in her wheelchair because they're cutting senior services. This is the special ed children that aren't getting service what they need because they're cutting the Department of Education. I think we're at a point where the public is saying, yeah, we get all those stories. We think this is all being done by political consultants. This stuff has to stop. Cut it anyway. I could be wrong.
You probably are. It won't be your first time. Let's talk about tariffs.
Let's talk about move on to tariffs with that.
Well, you get me fired by all my teacher clients. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
sorry. Hire Chuck. He'll protect you.
I'll fix all this shit you want to see. Anyway, tariffs, big tariff. We have some tariffs one day. Next day, we don't got no tariffs. Then we got double tariffs. Then we get single tariffs. One thing we know for a fact, Mike Madrid, and I want you to go on a long rant about Mexico and your new girlfriend, who's the president of Mexico down there, I'm pretty sure is your girlfriend, about how this is all going down. The one thing that Chuck Rocha knows, and I haven't known much about USAID, but since Chuck Rocha in his latter years, the twilight years of his life and career, have made a little money, I've started understanding this stock market a little bit more. And as soon as Donald Trump got in as president, I knew something was up when the man who manages my money and his wife, they're a couple, and I met them fishing. It's a whole long story. We'll have that on a different podcast. But one of my fishing partners manages my money, and my fishing partner called me and he was like, "Hey," he's like, "I'm gonna take most of your money and we're gonna put it over here in this thing and get our 2 or 3% because I don't know what the hell's gonna happen with the stock market when Donald Trump's president. It could be great, it could be bad. We're gonna take a bet that it's gonna be bad, and we're just gonna ride this thing out. You're going to get some mutual somethings and some other things. I know I'm getting about 3 or 4%. I ain't riding the stock market like a damn busting Bronco. But he was right, because as of today, and he could be wrong tomorrow, it could gain another 1,000 points. But as it is right now today on Wednesday, the stock market has lost more money than it had gained in the first 100 days of this presidency. We done lost all of that. And Mike Madrid's probably fixed to tell us what we have forward to look forward to, and probably some more losses. And if you see me go off camera for just a second, it's not because I don't think Mike Madrid's going to give us some riveting points. It's that I'm going to go in the other room and look for that necklace. I'll be right back.
Yeah, he's investing in chrome necklaces now is what he's got. His money managers got him investing in. Get out of stocks, buy chrome necklaces, buy jewelry. Let me say this. The market, I think, and look, I'm no money manager, but when Warren Buffett is in 2/3 cash, I mean, it never has been before. Bumpy times are coming. This is all going to come down to the economy. And I believe that we'll be heading into the midterms with a very shaky economy. Consumer confidence numbers are down. They've been down. They're going down. I think they're going to continue their decline. Even Trump himself is acknowledging that there's a tough times ahead. I think we're going to have to go through the tough times before we get to the MAGA America First vision. That's the argument. Incidentally, it's the same argument that Ronald Reagan made when we were coming out of a period of stagflation. And they threw the brakes on interest rates to reel in inflation and try to get economic growth going. And the 82 midterms were not good for Ronald Reagan, but the 84 reelect was overwhelming. It took a couple of years to get plugged back in. This is the same argument. There's a fundamentally different philosophical approach to the economy. I'm not saying I agree with it. In fact, I oppose it. I think it's really bad. I don't know very many people who do support tariffs for a whole bevy of reasons. I think that it's irresponsible. I think it's reckless. I think it's dumb. I think it's bad policy. I think it's bad monetary policy. I think it's bad all the way around. Tariffs, and again, I want to end on one point, and then I want to turn it back to Chuck, who's got a shiny new piece of chrome around his neck, like every good Democrat. You're gonna get kicked out of events, brother. I want you to start wearing that thing and see how well received you are at the vegan.
Keep talking about your tariffs. Don't be. You're just jealous.
Yeah, I'm a little jelly here. I want a chrome necklace too. I got to keep bringing people back to the notion that the people that have been the most successful in negotiating with or beating Donald Trump have been women. Nancy Pelosi was the master of it, right? She just understood men like Donald Trump, and Donald Trump can't contain himself. It's the one place where he really does overplay his hand in a way that makes him very weak and vulnerable to a negotiation from a woman who understands this dynamic. I believe Claudia Sheinbaum is one of those people, the president of Mexico. If you look at what is happening between the tariff discussions between Mexico and Canada, you are seeing a very different style coming from Donald Trump dealing with both of those. He's saying, I'm having very good conversations with Sheinbaum. I'm backing off of the tariffs. Some people might say, well, she's just acquiescing. I think it's more nuanced than that. I think she understands him. The Canadians, to their credit, and I say this probably as a man because I'm not that nuanced, are basically digging in for war. You coming after us? No, you ain't coming after us. We're going to hike up your tariffs 25% on your electricity, and we'll basically freeze your people out in the Northwest. How's that? You want to come at us? Well, come at us. Right? That's the way guys talk to each other. You got to go to war with me? Let's go to war. She's like, okay, this brute is coming after me. Let me use his own weight and belligerence against him. Let me tell him what we're going to do to give him a success on things we're already doing. And then maybe he just goes away. And the dude's so dumb, he buys it. He'll do it. She's negotiating with stuff that they've already agreed to do. And she's winning with the guy. So as much as I think Trump inherently is inclined to not like Mexicans, to want to beat up on Mexicans, and makes it, and it's an easier enemy for him for his own basis purposes, I want you to notice that he has turned all of his anger and fury on the Canadians. It's happening for a reason. It's because the Canadians are pushing back on him, and on a strong man like Donald Trump, that is not acceptable. Like, that's where he's going to unload the cannon. He's going to force all his efforts and energy over there. And rather than giving the guy the press conference and making him feel like he got a victory when he actually got nothing, they're sizing up, they're squaring up, they're putting up their fists, and they're saying, let's go, let's go. Which for a guy like Donald Trump is like, all right, now you're going to bear the full brunt and force of the awesome power of the federal government, the United States military. Like, if you don't think Trump will roll tanks on the Canadians, you're nuts. He will. He will. He's that nuts, especially when his ego is challenged, when his dominance is challenged. And that, I think, is probably the philosophy people need to understand. This dude is not playing four-dimensional chess. He's not even smart enough to play checkers. All it is just straight gangster. Who's stronger? Who's going to challenge me? I'm going to pick up on the weak. I'm going to steal their marbles off the playground. We're coming after Greenland. We're going after Panama because they're easy pickup, valuable targets. Let the Chinese have Taiwan. Let the Russians have Ukraine. I appreciate those strongmen because I respect the way that they're playing the game. But this is our game now. Enough of this value stuff that values are basically DEI. That's the way weak people play. We've got the most awesome military in the world, and we've got the strongest economy. So you know what? Let's use it. Let's go pick up all the small pieces on the chessboard, and then let's see if the Chinese want to dance with us. And then let's see if Vladimir Putin wants to go toe-to-toe with us. Until then, let's take their minerals. Let's take their canals. Let's take their passageways. Let's use them all as defensive military positions.
And you're saying this is his mindset.
That's Donald Trump's mindset. I'm saying it's right. There ain't no school of thought that think that that's right.
I was trying to clarify that before we lose more viewers and more downloads.
I'm just saying he's straight gangster. That's the way he plays.
So I think you made a valid point. And I think that looking at the way, I never really thought about the way she's handling him compared to the rest of the country, but it makes total sense, right? And now you see the predicaments that we're in, especially now that with Canadians, it was around steel and aluminum.
Aluminum.
Speaking of steel and aluminum.
Oh, twisted steel and sex appeal.
Like that, right? You thought I was lying. I just had to go find it to break it out. What I'm showing those who ain't on the YouTubes. And why are you not subscribed to our YouTube where you can see our pretty voices and our pretty faces all at one time? I'm holding a David Worth. He is the local artist, David Worth, chrome hook necklace from Islamorada that I bought at my very first fishing tournament almost 10 years ago that I had. It's nice. It shines because it's just like my truck tires. It is chrome and in charge. Anyway, aluminum and steel.
I want you all to know this is why Ebony Payne fell in love with Chuck Rocha. He was wearing that necklace when they first met, and she could not resist him at that point.
And to today, she tells the whole world that she cleaned me up and got rid of this thing and a few other things that I'm not allowed to wear that much, and put on a suit and some Gucci shoes. That's what I have to wear from time to time. Anyway, I digress. So what's going to really get the attention of these Republican congressmen? Let's go back to something I know something about, which is these congressional districts.
Yeah.
The way that this relates to that is that when you have a stock market that's lost all of this money, and then it'll come back, it'll go back and forth, but then you have the budget fight that's coming up in that's the next thing after the CR is they have to pass a budget. And in the budgets to reach the amount of money they need to cut to satisfy what they need to do for tax breaks for the rich, they're going to have to cut stuff out of Medicaid and probably do something with Social Security because that's where most of the money is. You couple the stock market with cuts to Medicaid and to Social Security, and then you look at what Canada's doing with the tariffs and what Mike Madrid just said about cutting off the electricity, doing this thing, causing things to go up. Liquor's going to be more expensive if you're trying to buy some Canadian whiskey, for God's sakes. All of the things, which just adds up to, again, I hate giving Mike Madrid credit for shit, but he was right about the affordability. It makes all this affordability stuff start building on itself to where these congressional folks are either going to have to grow a backbone and stand up to him at some point, quote unquote, or we're going to dramatically lose the house of what Mike Madrid was talking about when I called bullshit 2 weeks ago, that there could be the possibility of another wave the other direction if all these things stack on top of each other and nobody really pushes back. Have I got or missed anything there, Michael?
No, I think that's right. I will say, I mean, in the same way that if you look at Canada's polling numbers, Canada's got elections coming up really quickly. I think it's going to be a couple of days after this episode drops. The Liberal Party, Trudeau's party, is now within striking distance of holding its reins on power. The Conservative Party was up like 30 points. Trudeau's career was over. Donald Trump basically declares a trade war, and suddenly this emergence of Canadian nationalism is out there, where literally the slogan is, we're not going to be run over by the United States. We're not your 51st state. F you, America. We're Canada, and we're going to fight, even though you're bigger than us. You may be tougher than us, but we're not going down without a fight. This is the same sentiment, and I really want Democrats to listen to this. This is the same sentiment that Donald Trump is going to try to incite in the American people against the world to help him win in the midterms, because the economy is not going to be better. But if he creates a scenario where it's the United States against the world, he's going to have voters voting based off of that as opposed to the deteriorating economic conditions that we're in. That's what Vladimir Putin did in Russia, by the way. That's why Vladimir Putin has high numbers against in terms of invading a country when their economy is bad. Okay, he's made it nationalistic. The U.S. is invading us through Ukraine. We need to protect ourselves. The Russian people support him. Xi Jinping is doing the same thing in China. That's how he enjoys high levels of support. Okay, Canada is now doing it. That's what happens when the world devolves into nationalism. It's you against everybody in the world. This is a very dangerous framework, especially when people start trying to get nuclear weapons, like the Germans and the Poles, who have already said, we need our own nukes. We need our own nuclear capacity. When that happens, it's basically like arming a bunch of sixth graders to make the school safer. As long as every sixth grader's got a gun, no one's going to shoot first. Like, that's madness. That's crazy, but that's where the world is heading. And it's because of this nationalism that Trump is going to incite. He's going to make us I guarantee you, Trump is going to turn Canada into the enemy of the American people. The MAGA base is going to hate Canadians within the next year heading into the midterms, and he's going to blame them. This guy has a special skill of like running against immigrants, running against LGBTQ people, running against Muslims, running against everybody. And now he's like, I need another enemy. How about the Canadians? How about our best friends? Right. And it's that sentiment that if people are so pissed off and want to win, own the libs, win against the Canadians so bad, they're not paying attention to the price of gas, the price of eggs, the price of housing, and the fact that their dollar's worth less. And oh, by the way, your 401k's been cut in half and your retirement's now in jeopardy. Well, that's okay as long as we beat the Canadians and get their gas and their rare earth materials. Who cares? That's literally that's the scenario that we're heading into the midterms.
I think that's right. And I think that as we think about this, as it moves forward, every week we're bringing on more people to talk about the different aspects of this. Me and Mike's been talking about setting up some one-on-one interviews, doing some smaller pods, mini pods, if you will, little pods, if you will, for all of you small people, big pods, big sexy pods that I'll be doing because I do the big sexy pods. And now that all of you out there know about the YouTube channel and you know about this nice necklace that the folks who aren't on YouTube cannot see, it's because you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel and you're missing it. If you're just getting the audio version of this and you sit around and fantasize about what I might look like, you should get on the damn YouTubes and see for yourself.
We might have to do Chrome necklace merch for the Latino Vote podcast.
I just don't think that there's nothing wrong with that. I think that is living up to the culture of who we are and owning that. Even the fire trucks across the way got chrome wheels on them. I'm just noticing I live next to the fire station. I don't know. I'm against any of this. Let's talk about one last thing before we go.
Yeah.
Is I had an exciting phone call this week that I want to make sure the viewers, we talk about, again, welcome to the Latino Vote Podcast. You should know that in the Senate map that we all keep talking about, one of the Senate races that are going to be up next year, because Tina Smith has decided not to run for re-election. That is the other senator who is not Amy Klobuchar in Minnesota. There's a Latina former state senator, a lawyer, Boricua, who's going to be running for the U.S. Senate, Mike Madrid in Minnesota. Her name, for all of you out there listening, make sure you give her $5, give her $100. Last night, you should know, Big Daddy, Big Spending Chuck, I gave her $500 because I walked the walk over here. Melisa López, I'll probably mess up the white part of her last name, Franzen, Franzen. She's got 2 beautiful kids. She works at the University of Minnesota since she's been out of the state Senate. She's a badass. Look, I've spent an hour with her on the phone last night, and this is exactly who we should have in the United States Senate in Minnesota. Is there enough Latinos to elect her? No, but you should know, Mike, you'll love this the most. She got elected in a Republican district. She'd never really run with this Latino on her sleeve. She just run as a working class woman out in like a rural part of Minnesota,
right?
With a beautiful family, with a law degree, just talking about what we should do to make Minnesota more livable for people. And she got elected in a Republican district. She moved there from Puerto Rico when she was a young woman to go to college. And it's really refreshing for me. I don't want to speak for Mike, but for me, when I hear these stories of, like she said, look, she told me last night she's been told her whole life to wait her turn. And she decided that she don't want to wait any longer. She wasn't in public office. She has a great job right now, the University of Minnesota, but she wants to run. I want to have her on the podcast, Mike, but how cool would it be to have a Latina being a U.S. senator from the state of Minnesota?
That's what I love about this story, and I'm looking forward to having her on as a guest. But Puerto Rican in Minnesota, it's just such a great story. I'm going to ask her a question or judgment on why somebody from a beautiful island goes, tropical island goes to the snowy winters of Minnesota, but it makes you hardy.
I bet it was cheap. I'm just going to put it out there. I bet it was cheap.
We'll ask her. We'll find out. I want to find out. But obviously has made a life there, has a wonderful family there, is going to be running for the United States Senate. And I just, again, I'm still, I guess, either amazed at how old I am or how long I've been doing this, but to think that there would be a Latina candidate, a Hispanic woman running to be the United States Senator from Minnesota is an accomplishment in and of itself. I think it'd be great if the, listeners on the podcast, viewers on the YouTube channel, just throw in, $5, $10, $15, $20, just not just to kind of raise the money, but show the breadth of her donor base. Whatever happens with the race, I think that's really an important moment to start saying, hey, we're everywhere. We need to be listened to. Our agenda is important. So we'll put down her website in the link below. And we'll make sure that you check her out, give us some feedback on her, write some comments, give us some questions you want asked, okay, in the comments section, because we will ask her those questions. And I'm excited about it. I love these stories. You've got, again, a Latina who's won in Republican districts. There's no Latino base that's going to get you elected statewide in Minnesota, but she's been successful at doing this before, clearly an accomplished woman. We're going to have her on to share with us what some of those secrets are, because I know a lot of people listening to this podcast are considering running themselves, if not for U.S. Senate, maybe school board, city council, or state legislature. This is a candidate you need to listen to and learn from. So looking forward to it, Chuck. When you can get her on, let's get her on.
Yep, I'll talk to her this week. You know what the Puerto Ricans in Minnesota all have, don't you?
What's that?
Chrome necklaces, baby. Puerto Ricans like the chrome necklaces too. Listen, Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're pushing the YouTubes because we want to get more people on the YouTube channel where you get our stuff first. Thanks for all of you who've been liking and reviewing on Apple Podcast, on the Spotify. Our large, giant, some would say, production team has been monitoring all of your comments. I know Mike Madrid's been on there trying to get y'all all ginned up. Andreas and his team have been doing great with the graphics, the wind up. Andreas, I've been listening. I've been seeing all of the damn audio things you've been putting on the back end to try to make us sound smart. Don't forget to like us, review us. I miss Mike Madrid not being here in person like we were last week. If you still got your mom and daddy, don't forget to call them. And until next week, y'all be good.